All right, welcome back to the finals. Jumping right in. You didn't get to see it, but Kyle DePaggio was on the play, and he actually kept a no-lander because he was able to turn one Black Lotus into a Dark Confident. Warren Connell actually also had a turn one Lotus hand where he cracked it for blue, resolved Ponder, and then cast Ancestral Recall, which you just saw. And with the remaining blue floating, he was able to Flusterstorm Kyle DePaggio's Force at Will.
So up 3 cards here. It's a question of how long before Dark Confidant can catch up to that advantage. Warren's got a full hand here, and we'll see what he's able to do. Now, main deck, he doesn't have any way of removing the Dark Confidant, which is unusual to control lists in the format right now. The formula that's been succeeding has been up to 4 removal spells like Swords to Plowshares or Lightning Bolt, especially post-board. Sometimes you can cheat it and have a couple of them main deck, but most of the decks have been able to deal with that on-board Confidant. This list, unable to. He's going to need to either race it or maybe find a Jace and try and mitigate the damage that way, but that's not a particularly good use of Jace.
He could also even be playing, consider playing Abrupt Decay in this list because he has access to all those colors. Abrupt Decay might not be as strong against like some of the artifact lists because it doesn't have the ability to flash back. But the fact that it resolves every time you cast it, that could definitely... Okay, it looks like...
Vamp into a Mental Misstep, and we've got a Misstep back. Misstep is such a good card in the format right now. I've been saying, at least 3 Missteps. I feel 3 is the right number. 4 does get to the point where you get a glut, and for most players, I find that if you're running 4, you start to make slightly suboptimal plays. It's not always correct to just misstep any one casting cost spell, but it is really tempting to do that when you have an extra one in your hand, or if you're running 4 and you feel like you're just going to draw one when you need it. You do want to reserve it for cards like Vampiric Tutor, Ancestral, Fast Bond, unless you really feel like you've got a read and you're trying to land screw your opponent by shutting off that early cantrip. So we've got the battle of the 2/1s here. Young Pyromancer facing down a Dark Confidant. That is going to stop Dark Confidant from attacking. I mean, he's going to clog up the board, and that guy is not going to get into the red zone.
And it does not appear that Kyle is drawing any lands. So...
Wow. Offering up the trade with no lands on board. That is gutsy. That is very, very gutsy. I am very interested in that lack of a trade there.
Well, maybe Kyle had sort of a read that Warren was committed to the Pyromancer because he vamped and then was able to play it. Now, Kyle doesn't know that he vamped for the Pyromancer necessarily, but if you Vampiric Tutor and then you follow it up with a certain play, you got to imagine that you're either searching for the card that you just played or protection for that card.
This is very interesting. So the Ground War is officially stalled. We've got a 1/1 that can hold off that Dark Confidant all day. Eventually he'll be able to start sending them over, but we've already shown that Warren is not willing to trade the Young Pyromancer with the Dark Confidant. So hopefully he can play a few spells and get both blockers and attackers on board here and just start to pull away. But I would not be comfortable leaving my opponent with the extra card every turn.
Definitely not.
We've got the Gush, so he's again keeping up with the Dark Confidant. Got the extra token. And Warren may feel that he's just ahead enough after resolving the Ancestral that Kyle's just kind of playing catch up. Maybe he's not as concerned. We've got Forcing Back. Tokens everywhere.
Yeah.
What I've seen a lot of people trying to do is figure out how to maximize the usefulness of those 1/1s. Not only are they good at attacking and blocking, they're also good for tapping down for Tanglewire and the Workshop matchup. But then the other question is, how much farther can you go? Is a card like Goblin Bombardment worth it? How about Skullclamp? So far, Skullclamp seems to be the best card for that task.
Cabal Therapy could also be a consideration.
I've seen people doing it. The consensus so far is it's not really worth it. I think there may be a build that makes better use of it, but right now Thoughtseize seems to just be that much better. Even missing the first time just isn't worth it. And then Brainstorm really does mess with that. When you're trying to Cabal Therapy someone and they can Brainstorm in response, I mean, that's just a mess. So we've got the lethal damage on board due to the flipping of the Abrupt Decay.
Didn't find that land drop. It was a risky keep. I imagine he had to have force backup, otherwise it was just madness.
Yeah, we did see the force, and I think the play's probably fine versus the deck that doesn't have mana denial, and knowing that it doesn't have a way of removing the Dark Confidant, you just have to hope to draw better than that. And your opponent having Ancestral is also pretty devastating.
Now I wonder if Warren knows that Kyle is a Wasteland heavy deck. He might, because he's played against him before. And with that in mind, does he bring in the Mountain?
Without having the Lightning Bolts, I don't know. I mean, it could go either way. There's nothing really wrong with having the Mountain kicking around. For the most part, though, based off of his list, it looks like he wants to be able to cast his blue spells reliably, and if he can just get out that Pyromancer once, he's fine. There's not a lot of use for that red mana, so it's probably not worth bringing in. If he had a full set of Lightning Bolts, I would say absolutely bring it in. That's what I do when I play against Kyle's bug deck, and it's treated me very well so far, being able to get out a basic island and a basic mountain, and knowing there's very little he can do to mess with that aside from the Singleton Strip Mine.
It looked to me like he boarded in 3 cards. That might not be accurate, but I'm just trying to imagine what they could be. Thoughtseize maybe to clear the way, make sure his bombs resolve. It seems like against Kyle, the Ancient Grudges can definitely come out. Not sure what else comes out.
Yeah, I mean, Thoughtseize is definitely a card. You are going to be able to get rid of the Abrupt Decay and make sure that your Pyromancer sticks around. Kyle doesn't have a ton of ways of getting it off the board, so if you can just get those out of the way, generate some tokens, but that is difficult too. I mean, they've got the Snapcaster, so even getting rid of an Abrupt Decay, they can still get it back later. But I mean, Thoughtseize is really going to be strong here, especially if you're able to pull ahead and just make sure that there's no way of them getting back into the game. It's a little bit better on the play because then you're able to potentially completely undermine the reason why someone kept. A lot of the time in Vintage, you'll keep a hand that has maybe land, Sapphire, Ancestral Flusterstorm, and think you're just golden because your Ancestral is definitely going to resolve. Well, Thoughtseize puts an end to that if it happens beforehand.
Right. I would bet that Kyle probably brings in his Dismembers, just because of how devastating young Pyromancer was that first game.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. He's got some other cards in here that don't do a ton of work versus Warren. Now, the Trigon Predators are interesting in that they can get rid of the fast bond, but without Kyle really knowing what direction this deck is going to go in, Pyromancer decks are so new, it's hard to say. Much better opening for Kyle here. He still has the Lotus, however this time he has a Bayou and a Sapphire to go along with it. That is a tremendous opening, putting a ton of pressure on Warren right away. He looks to be outdrawing him 2-1 if this resolves.
Does Warren have the Force in hand? Did he
draw for turn?
Yeah,
it looks like a Force.
He might have drew the Force this turn.
He must have drawn the Force. I can't imagine that he'd be letting that Dark Confidant resolve there otherwise.
Right.
I see a Sapphire as well. We'll see what he does. We've got Scalding Tarn and a Sapphire. So Sapphires on both sides of the table. One of them looks like it's black bordered and signed.
Very nice.
We'll see what he's able to do with it. Looks like he has some options. He's in the tank. What play does he come up with? We've got the fetch land. Now, as you mentioned before, how is he going to play around the wasteland effects?
Right.
Having the Sapphire, going and grabbing the mountain here, could give him options later on. But really, he has a lot of black and green cards that he needs to be casting. So we've got the black and a Demonic Tutor.
Oh, yep.
Looks like
the foil one.
Judge
and
promo.
It's altered.
Yeah, looks like he's got some kind of gold marker sword, perhaps. Kind of extending out over the casting cost there.
Very cool.
So lots of options here. None of them get rid of Dark Confidant, though.
Right.
Not that that would be the best play for your Demonic Tutor. Usually you want to do something that furthers your game plan.
Probably grab an Ancestral, at least.
Yeah, that may be the play. I mean, the deck doesn't have the bombs that the traditional Grixis control lists have. In this situation, a Tinker could be a really good target. But that's not an option for him. He's pretty much looking to win off of the Tendrils of Agony or the Young Pyromancer.
Looks like he's snagging up. Oh, he did bring in the Mountain.
Well, that would be the third card, then
Yeah.
that does make sense. I don't necessarily agree with it.
It's not an island.
But the mystery has been solved. Yeah, in a Gush deck, I really am not a big fan of the Mountain unless you've got like Ingot Chewers or something that you're trying to make sure you can reliably use.
Yeah.
But unless I'm missing anything in his list, it really is just going to be the Young Pyromancer for red. Depending on what he took out, it may be an additional mana source. He may have felt like he was a little light on mana, but that seems pretty unlikely. It's not like he's going to have to deal with sphere effects, so the total number of mana isn't that big a deal compared to, oh, what do we just have, a flipped Snapcaster, okay.
And in response, before the draw step, he's going to attempt a Vampiric Tutor.
Yep, so we've got the Ancestral on Warren's side of the table. Will we see an Ancestral on Kyle's? If he gets Ancestral, he'll be able to throw out Snapcaster and flash it back. That is a plan I am very partial to. So we have a misstep. And a misstep back.
By a misstep. He's paying the mana probably because he knows he's going to take a pretty decent amount of damage from Bob over the course of this game. Warren just misstepping again.
Yeah, I don't like paying the mana there. I really don't. I feel like there's a lot of different options. For example, he could have Snapcastered and misstepped to force through the Vampiric Tutor. Like you could have just got that misstep back, and then he'd have an extra guy on board, furthering his game plan, and then he also would have been able to potentially resolve that Ancestral.
Right. So right here, Warren's probably going to run out that Ancestral, and I think we'll see Kyle Snapcast the misstep.
So playing much more defensively with the Snapcaster. I would have liked to have rolled the dice, drawn 3 extra cards, and potentially drawn a counter or discard spell to deal with it. So let me check his list here. Does he have access to discard post board?
Doesn't look
He
like
does
it.
not. He does not. So I guess it would have just been the counter spells at that point.
I'm surprised Kyle doesn't run any discards.
Yeah, some of the bug lists do. I haven't been seeing it as much lately. I mean, I'm a big fan of having access to discard, not necessarily going up to a full play set. My list I've been on a single Thoughtseize, and anytime you have singletons in your deck, Snapcaster just becomes that much better.
Yeah.
So what do we have here?
Wow. So Warren pitched the Force of Will. He pitched the Gush to Force of Will, attempting to go from 3 cards. Now that would just be 1 card net advantage. And Kyle has the second Snapcaster. He has 4 power on the table, and he's going to be drawing a crap load of spells. So looks pretty bad for Warren here. Losing that counter war was huge. It was a big commitment.
Yeah, Snapcaster is so good with misstep. I've been singing that for a long time. It's just so important to be able to win those counter wars over those 1 casting cost pivotal spells like Ancestral, Top Deck Tutors, Fast Bond, and it just does so much work. Deathrite Shaman here, very interesting in that it's going to start to shut off a lot of Warren's plays. It's amazing versus Regrowth, like unreasonably good, and he's got it now. He's got the Ancestral. That's exactly when he needed it. That draw would have been
timely.
Completely dead moving forward.
So now he's able to get some cards back in his hand, potentially move back into this game. It's gonna have to be a really big turn for him. Oh, it looks like he drew a Black Lotus. So, I mean, he's got Preordain. He could Black Lotus into Yawgmoth's Will here, and that would be pretty broken.
That is how it's done. That's what you're really looking for here.
And he hasn't made his land drop yet. Looks like you found a young Pyromancer and maybe a fetch land.
Pyromancer's going to be too late.
He just doesn't have the gas in his hand to support it. Oh, it's a Mox Emeralds.
Oh no, Warren! It's too late. It's too late. Don't keep it.
He kept it.
He did. He needed to move all in for the Yogg Will.
Yeah, because he's got the Lotus, but he's just gonna run it out there. He's not gonna play his land for turn.
Kyle can just swing right into that. It just gets rid of it, and he can replace whatever. Yeah, this is not greedy enough. If he goes for the Yawgmoth's Will, if he hits it, it's a blowout.
It's like when you're dead either way, you might as well go for the biggest potential gain.
And we got the Abrupt Decay, so it's just death. He swings, he's gonna go -2, and then dead before the Confidant even flips. Not that he even has a 13 drop in his deck, but it's over. He doesn't even need another attack step. Even if Warren clogs the board somehow with tokens here, it wouldn't matter. Deathrite would be taking him out either way. So that is
he needed to just search for. I mean, chances are he probably wouldn't have found it in that 40-something cards. Bottom the Pyromancer and the Emerald, and then the odds that 1 out of like 39 cards is the Yawgmoth's Will on top are not very high, but if it's your only chance at winning, you still have to play that out.
Yeah, you go there, and then you still have the potential to hit Gush, and then Gush into the Yawgmoth's Will.
Oh, right, that's true.
There are times where you just have to recognize that, there's just very little chance you're going to win, and just walk toward that small percentage, and anything else is just not good enough.
Right.
That's one of the awesome things about this format, though, is the real skill testing in terms of walking away from a sure thing. Like, the Pyromancer looked good to him, and it's like, how much better is that next card going to be? I don't know. Like, I'll just, be risk-averse and keep it. And there are times where that line pays off. There are times where being super greedy will cost you, but finding the balance is what makes the difference in between, your good players and your really great players. And on any given day, any of us can play at, any kind of level like that. Sometimes we are just in a space where we really manage that risk aversion well, and that's a big part of it, to be able to figure out the line and not let the other stuff going on kind of distract you from, this is my chance to win, and this is what I need to do, and I don't care if I get rid of that pretty good card and draw a land, because it was just the right play.
Right, and one conversation we were having, I'm not sure we got it recorded, I want to definitely make sure we get this on footage, talking about an early loss and how that can really shake your desire, your focus when you lose round 1 and you know that you're not in contention for first place. You're still able to, if you play well, you're still able to get in top 4, and in larger tournaments, top 4 is still really excellent prize structures. So getting those early losses and just being able to maintain your focus and not let it tilt you definitely separates the good players from the great players.
Yeah, absolutely. There was it wasn't a Swiss tournament that I was playing in where I got a first round loss, but at the last Pandemonium I lost. Warren was actually watching the matchup, playing with Dark Confidant. I go turn 1 Mana Crypt Dark Confidant off of a fetch land, lose the Mana Crypt roll, flip a Blightsteel Colossus. And
so that's 15 damage right off the bat. And
my opponent had opened up with a turn 1 Metalworker, and I just made the best plays that I could, and I ended up using an Ingot Chewer to blow it up, Yawgmoth's Will, replay it to blow up my own Mana Crypt to slow the bleeding, and almost got there, didn't, ended up with a first round loss, ran the table, and still made the top 8. But yeah, I've seen that a lot of times where people they check out, they don't feel like they can do it. However you feel is correct. If you don't feel like you can do it, you're absolutely right. But if you feel like you can, then you can get there. And it really is the ability to shrug off the variance, play your best. And when I used to play 5 to 7 days a week, there were vintage events all over the place. and I'm talking in the heyday of Vintage back in the day. And leaving the house, parents would be like, "Oh, good luck," and I'd be like, "Don't wish me luck. Just play well. That's all I need to do. I don't need luck. I just need to play my best, and get out of that mindset of, oh well, I just got to get lucky, and just make the best play. That's it. And I don't care if it hits or not. If it's a 1 in 100, I hang my hat on making the play and knowing that I'm only going to hit it 1 out of 100 and making it every single time. Because most people eventually stop making that play. Like, that slight chance, they just can't stand losing, and they'll just make the play that seems safer, even though it's statistically not. Much less explosive this game. All we had is a ponder there. So no first turn Black Lotuses flying around.
Right.
We've got a ponder met by a tropical island. Do we have a death right to follow that up? What kind of hand does Kyle have here?
I don't know, but I think Warren probably has a very mana-light hand because he fetched out a basic in a 4-color deck. So that would suggest that he might not have many lands. So he has another land right there, but
what he may have been concerned about, if he had just 2 fetches, he may not have wanted to lead with the underground and then not be able to brainstorm fetch. If it gets wastelanded, then he'd have to respond with the brainstorm and it'd be a mess. I'm not sure why he fetched on the first turn specifically. It may have been so he could definitely respond to his opponent's spell instead of potentially.
Well, he did run out of ponder, and he shuffled off ponder, which is another reason why I think he's like digging for land here.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. That is definitely the line then. So we've got the Mystical. Probably going to grab Ancestral.
Seems good.
It seems like the best card in his deck. It's going to be one of the hardest ones to defend, but it's just that good. Some of the Pyromancer builds that I've seen aren't even running Mystical, because it does put you in a spot like this where you're down a card trying to resolve Ancestral. It's really the only card you can get aside from Time Walk. Mm-hmm. If you're getting Time Walk, you're probably really far ahead.
Yeah.
So if you're in this situation where you're Mysticaling for Ancestral early, and the upside isn't that big, because it's not like you're going to assemble Voltaic Key and Time Vault or Tinker for Blightsteel. Like,
right.
Best case scenario, you're getting down to Pyromancer. Though this Gush list, even though we haven't seen it, does have the potential of Fastbond, Gush, Insanity, but it doesn't seem to be the way that Warren's playing the list.
So I guess I was wrong because Warren just played his 3rd land before he resolved his Ancestral, so and we know that he definitely drew Ancestral this turn.
So we've got a Brainstorm from Kyle.
How many cards does Warren have? 4? 5?
Yeah, it's not a full grip. He definitely
could have afforded to at least respond with that Ancestral. Maybe he's waiting to draw protection.
He could also be concerned about Flusterstorm with the 2 Storm copies. That would all of a sudden become a hard counter. Right. He may be looking for an end of turn Ancestral where even if Kyle has the Fluster, he can pay the 2. So just Tropical Islands on Kyle's side of the table so far.
End step Brainstormed.
Brainstorm's really interesting in Vintage. When you talk about like the difference between Legacy and Vintage, as we often do, in Vintage you've got the Singleton Brainstorm, so there's kind of a need to preserve it and to like really get the maximum usefulness. But you also have more ways of shuffling, and you also have a much higher reward off of the Brainstorm. You can brainstorm into Ancestral, you can brainstorm into Time Walk. So there are times where you run it out there even though you can't shuffle, just because seeing 3 new cards is that good, which is a little counterintuitive because a lot of people from Legacy feel like you wait until you use your Brainstorm for maximum effect of selecting the card quality, but the variance is just so big. The difference in between hitting your 3rd creature or an Ancestral is just through the roof.
Yep.
So it is one of the harder cards to play. I miss having 4 of them. But Vintage is in a pretty good place right now.
Yep. Warren's playing nice and conservatively. He's got his Ancestral, and he's just kind of sitting on it. doesn't really have any reason to fire it off right now because it's unprotected. He doesn't have a regrowth in hand. He doesn't have any way of protecting it or ensuring it resolves.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of mysticaling for a card and then sitting on it. I feel like take those extra draw steps. You may draw what you were going to mystical for anyways,
right.
And then you may have another target for it. Deathrite is a real card here. The ability to screw with the regrowths, as we mentioned, is really important, and it's going to make sure that his Yawgmoth's Wills are not anywhere near as good, potentially not even a viable line.
So it looks like he's going to Strip Mine and Underground Sea.
Not as devastating with Warren having as much mana. So is that a blue floated off of that? Is that what we're seeing here? So we've got a Force, pitching, was that a Snapcaster Mage?
I think it was a Snap.
Wow. Was that the only blue card in his hand?
Doesn't look like it, but maybe it was a Flusterstorm like you talked about. So Warren's going to respond with his Brainstorm. Oh, he does have Regrowth in hand.
Brainstorm. Brainstorm before Ancestral. Pretty desperate.
Seem great.
Pretty desperate.
Even if you shuffle away, you still have a chance of drawing those cards that you shuffled away, where you would have fewer cards that you could potentially see if you Ancestral resolves first.
Yeah, you really would like to resolve the Ancestral, then Brainstorm after, and really maximize the quality. Getting rid of the worst 2 cards out of those 6. That's not an option all the time, though, so we'll see what he ends up keeping.
Also, in general, unless whatever spell you're about to resolve strictly just wins the game, I'm not a huge fan of brainstorming to try and find a counterspell.
Yeah, Ancestral is that good, though. I mean, it's not winning the game, but it's pretty darn close. It's hard to imagine losing after resolving Ancestral twice, and we may see something along those lines here.
Flusterstorm the Force. I guess Flusterstorm's not as bad as forcing the Ancestral because, forcing his Force because at least he's not going down a card.
Yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't complain about that at all. I mean, he's up cards now. He's got the Force out of Kyle's hand, and he's got the regrow for Ancestral here. So
that'll be pretty big.
This is good. Again, that Deathrite, just a turn too late, and that regrowth is just in time.
Merchant Scroll, which can probably find a Gush later.
Yeah, that would also be a card that would be pitched to Force down the line. The tempo loss may not be worth it, depending on what else he has going on. If he has a Pyromancer out, generating those tokens is really good, though. But with Ancestral already gone, Brainstorm already gone, Gush is pretty much the only target that he'd be looking at. It's unlikely that he'll get so far ahead that he's going to Merchant Scroll for counters.
Yeah, there's not like a whole lot of proactivity he can do aside from gushing. But in this position, without a Pyromancer on the table, without Fastbond on the table, Gush is not, and he already blew his Brainstorm, so Gush is not going to be the ideal card at this point in the game.
But Regrow Ancestral will be plenty good if he's able to do that.
Oh, definitely. And, he's got to know that Kyle would have probably countered that Ancestral if he could have. He tried to. He pitched a Snapcaster. So I feel like it's fairly safe to just run that play out there right now.
Yeah. Think about how different it would be on the other side of the table if Kyle had a misstep here. To be able to misstep and Snapcaster and misstep, it's a totally different game. It really does go to show how important that card is. Yeah, Ancestral's been a defining card this matchup. It's really important being able to access it. We'll see. The Mystical Tutor for Ancestral may actually be worth it in these builds, despite not having the game-ending bombs that most of the decks do.
Right.
I mean, Yawgmoth's Will, to be fair, is still pretty much a game ender in this list. We haven't seen it from Warren being, just a total blowout out of nowhere, but it does have the potential when you've got those 4 gushes.
Is that Deathrite Shaman active right now? No.
No, I don't believe so. I think that was off of that tropical island.
Yeah, so this is the time to do these plays.
Yep.
No point waiting.
Yeah, just a turn too late again. We got the Ancestral.
Pyromancer Force? No. Can't tell. I did see a Pyromancer.
No, he's got the mana open for Pyromancer, so that is a good spot to be in if he can stabilize here. Really high life totals. Let Pyromancer start to do the work.
Yeah, it looks like Warren definitely pulled ahead pretty far over the course of Kyle's last end step in his turn right now.
Yeah, Regrowth is one of those cards that I absolutely love against the blue decks and cannot stand against the workshop decks. Like, it's just so bad to have those cards in your hand where it's like, oh, I can pay 1 in the green plus the sphere effects to get something else that I have to pay even more for. You don't go anywhere. So we've got the Pyromancer.
Abrupt Decay, I think, is
on the way.
To happen. Yep. Nope, Dismember. No. Similar. Does Warren have a counterspell?
Any response could potentially generate tokens here. Maybe a Gush. What do we have? Was that another Pyromancer in hand?
I think it was.
So we're seeing the middle of a fetch. He's trying to figure this out.
Does he want another red? Does he want to get his second black? I mean, the second black seems like it would be the crux of, going over the top is in terms of Tendrils, Demonic Tutor, Yawgmoth's Will.
Yeah, double black is really relevant. It's a consideration when building mana bases. You really want to be able to Demonic Tutor and play a black spell like Yawgmoth's Will in the same turn, and you don't always have Lotus. Yeah. Unlike the previous 2 games, this is a much grindier one.
He went for red, I assume because he's going to play another young Pyromancer, and he doesn't want Kyle to untap Wasteland and then be stuck with the Pyromancer in his hand.
Yeah, that would be a very real concern here. So we've got Snapcaster.
On Dismember, most likely.
Looks like that's going to resolve. Yep. He already got the value out of the token, which is nice. And he's got another one to follow it up, so. But yeah, this is a game. This is really be interesting to see how this plays out.
Definitely.
I mean, it could go anywhere from here.
Warren made some strong plays getting ahead on cards early, but Kyle's using his Snapcasters to gain card advantage, and now Warren's graveyard is less volatile. Unless you can do something this turn because Kyle doesn't have a black mana open.
That would be amazing if he had a Regrowth. Oh, that would be such a blowout. What do we have? Pyromancer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting for Regrowth now. That would be amazing. Tell me he has it.
Just getting that opening. Yeah, you don't need that other red.
Now we're going to go get that Gush. Leaving the green open in case he draws Regrowth, taking full opportunity.
Fast Bond.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If he draws Fast Bond, this could get ugly very, very fast.
2 Regrowth still in there, Fast Bond still in there.
Now Kyle doesn't have that Dark Confidant on board as he has in previous games, so Gush is really, really good to be able to pull ahead, and there's no creeping the way back in on Kyle's side of the table. Even if he draws a Confidant later, it's still multiple turns before he reaches to the same level.
Right, it seems like a lot of the games he won on camera involved a very early Dark Confidant.
It's so important, especially when the power level of your cards isn't as high as your opponent, to be able to 2-for-1 them and just get to the point where they eventually have to start countering your creatures. I mean, that's really what you need to be doing.
So now Warren, does he play Gush this? Yeah, he plays it right now.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many good things that can happen from here with that Dark Confidant, or with that Deathrite Shaman unable to interact. This is really big. A Yawgmoth's Will could also happen here if he's able to hit Fast Bond, Lotus, anything like that, and be really explosive. So we've got 2 new ones.
Drew a mountain.
Oh, that mountain.
Yep. It's one of my favorite mountains. Foil unhinged.
They are nice. Volcanic proves to be better in this spot. We've got a Thoughtseize generating more tokens, potentially protecting that.
Well, it should generate more tokens.
Oh, please generate the tokens. No, it's not happening.
Looks like Kyle's taking that moment to really allow the trigger to miss.
Oh, and he didn't misstep it. He could have misstepped.
Yeah.
He didn't. He didn't want to lose the life. He could have. He could have used the Deathrite Shaman to tap for green, but he would have taken damage from anything coming across. So
maybe he didn't want to start a counter war to generate even more tokens.
It's possible. That is possible, but you know what? Not playing spells is not an option here. He's really far behind. He's gonna have to play through it. It's not like he has a land that can get rid of the young Pyromancer. Would that be Shivan Gorge, maybe? Not a lot of good ways of getting rid of it.
Pit.
There you go. That's the card. Somebody actually asked me for that at the tournament. They wanted to run it.
Yeah, I've seen it in Legacy. Someone played a Bug Planeswalkers list involving Jace, Liliana, and a Singleton Garruk Relentless with Pernicious Deeds.
Okay. Life from the Loam to recur it? That makes sense. Yeah, it really shows the speed of the different formats in terms of inevitability. In a format like Legacy, that can set it up so your opponent can't possibly win, whereas in Vintage, they tend to have a lot more potential live draws to get out of a bad situation.
Right.
So Trigon, again, huge backside, able to block all day long, but Pyromancer will eventually overwhelm this board.
Yep.
He's got to get rid of it somehow.
He's got plenty of cards in hand, plenty of mana available. I think you just take the Ancestral here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's by far the most dangerous card there. So Warren's looking at basically 2 damage a turn. If Kyle just starts going aggro with the Trigon, it's 4. Time Walk, pretty reasonable card here. That's going to allow for 4 damage this turn and actually pull Kyle ahead in life.
Warren, I see a Mental Misstep, a Mountain, a Volcanic Island, and I'm not sure what else.
Here we go, Trigon coming through. Did we get a missed trigger on the blowing up an artifact? Did that just happen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Looks like it just doesn't matter.
Most likely.
Both players. So now they're at parity on missing triggers.
Yeah, I really would have liked to see that Mox Jet get out of there because the double black is potentially very important.
Single black at this point.
Yes, so does he have another black source in his hand?
No, he fetched for a second red source to ensure his Pyromancer
Oh
resolved.
no, oh no, he's got the vamp for the black.
To punish it.
Oh, devastating.
All the punishment.
Oh, that's just... That happened. We're checking life totals right now, I think. Oh, what a costly one. Ooh, and you know, that really would have defined my hesitation about these lists, is the huge amount of mana requirement. Like, you're pulled in all these different directions. You want red for the Pyromancer. You want potentially double black for Tendrils or Demonic for Yawgwill. You need green so you can get your fast bond. Of course, you need tons of blue.
Everything is blue.
It's so much. One of the lists that I've been looking at is using Deathrite Shaman to try and help with that. So it's got 3 Deathrites to really act as that Birds of Paradise type of effect.
I like that. Misstep will be met by misstep.
Oh, man.
More Slowbros on the table.
That is so huge. So it looks like Warren would not have had the black mana for any of this type of thing to be happening.
Yep.
We've got a Fluster.
So, Flusterstorm happens, and I guess...
We're trying to figure out the targets, perhaps?
Yeah.
Because he's got
3 mana available.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna...
It's not like he has a Dark Ritual play to kind of blow things out. Simian Spirit Guide. We didn't get to see any of that this time.
No Simian Spirit Guides today.
Last tournament it was Guerrilla Violence everywhere with the unpowered decks. We had a little drop in unpowered decks this time. I was surprised. Our attendance went up, but we actually didn't have as many unpowered decks in the field.
So do you think that's people who were playing unpowered decks taking the steps to attain the power, or more people coming out of the woodwork who have power that weren't playing before, some combination thereof?
It's definitely a combination. I helped some people get power who didn't have it before. There's people who had some power last time and wanted to play unpowered, and they were able to get it. Some people were able to borrow power who played unpowered last time. But we also had a few people just unable to make it because of the difficulty of Monday nights. And that was too bad, but it's to be expected. I was really happy with the turnout. 16 was just awesome. So we have Flusterstorms all over the place.
So what do you think he's going to get that's going to be that important? Time Walk? He missed the Slowbro trigger.
Yep.
So Time Walk or Yawgmoth's Will. No, not Yawg Will here. Another Gush?
He pretty well just needs to be able to use the mana. Time Walk is most likely the best option. So this is very interesting in terms of the Flusterstorm action. We're trying to figure out what's targeting what with these counters, because remember, when you double up, they can just pay for the one that you left behind.
Right.
So let's see how everything is targeted. So we have Flusterstorm 5. So that means that he can target each of them once and one of them for 2. And Kyle has 3 mana.
So you can make 3 of them resolve, and Warren can still only pay for 2 of them.
Yes.
Yeah, that can definitely be some tricky math to do in your head real quick.
Yeah, you really need to slow down with Flusterstorm and make sure that you've got the full picture before you start letting stuff resolve. I'm glad they're being really clear about it, because this is likely going to be the critical play of the match. Vamp should be getting something that's a game ender.
What does Warren have in his deck that would end the game right now?
Well, Time Walk is pretty close to that, right?
Time Walk. I mean, Kyle's at 11, so you cast Time Walk. He should have 2 more tokens at least.
Yeah, that really is important too. If he had those extra tokens, Time Walk would be just amazing.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to trade with the Snapcaster, and the Trigon will eat a Slowbro each attack step, but it may just put the game so far behind. Now, Deathrite Shaman's other mode of gaining life could actually become relevant here. Alright, we're really trying to figure this out.
Dice aren't working.
Yeah, anybody who has any suggestions for coverage, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I've really appreciated all the feedback that I've received, and continuing to try and improve to bring you guys the best coverage possible. Looks like we've got the Vamp getting countered. And where do we go from here? We've got that Volcanic Island coming back down, so is that going to leave him with 2 or 3 in hand there?
2, I believe. One of them's a mountain.
Yeah. I am just not a fan of that mountain in this matchup, and it is
No.
proven to be really bad. So we've got 2 Slowbros biting the dust.
Yep.
3 left. Pretty tense so far, missing the ability to play a spell. Kyle, no cards in hand, draws Wasteland, able
rid of
to
the
cut him off
green.
of green.
Seems pretty relevant.
Warren's still having that black. Man, at this point it may have been worth it just to swing with the Trigon, because you could still block with the Deathrite and then gain the 2 life. So I think getting rid of those artifacts off the table would be really big, especially that singleton black mana. You know, Kyle's set up in a position here where he can really potentially race if he gets a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, Warren just has so many cards in his deck that can pull him out. He just needs to draw anything.
All right, so we've got a
remember
force,
the token.
Getting another guy. Yeah, it's tough because I don't know that Kyle needs to be playing spells here. Like, he may have just been able to win with what's on board instead of giving... If Warren's hand is clogged with counters, like, why give him the ability to create the extra tokens?
4 mana Jace.
Probably a Jace at 4.
I would probably swap the Mountain for the Mox Jet.
Yeah, there we go.
Do we bounce Trigon? I think we just brainstorm and try to find more spells here.
I think that's the play. Your guys are largely expendable. Now remember, the Trigon can potentially get rid of Jace, but then he's not doing damage to Warren, so...
And then he doesn't get to block for a turn. And he's at 8 life.
Yeah, and you can't really force the block because Jace can just bounce the Trigon anyways, so it's...
So he drew the Gush, he drew a Mental Misstep, and I don't know what the 3rd card was.
It looks like we still have that Force.
He's keeping the Force. He had double Force in his hand when he cast it on Dark Confidant.
So pretty good shape here for Warren. With Jace on the table, it's likely to close it out. He can't really swing in effectively unless he starts generating a lot more guys. But he's in really good shape.
Yeah, lose 2 guys, make 1. Well, this turn he made 2. Not this turn, but since last turn he would have... If he plays Gush, that'll be his 2nd since last turn, because he forced on Kyle's turn. Yeah, he's going to Gush. Knows what the cards are. Mental Misstep and another Gush.
Oh, chaining Gushes is where you want to be. Now, if that mountain was a island, but I mean that wasn't a possibility, I doubt he swapped out mountain for an island. That's really unlikely. But it's been fairly underwhelming the whole time.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what the 3rd card he boarded out was. Maybe Hurkyl's Recall.
Yeah, probably Hurks, because the storm that you gain off of it doesn't actually work with the young Pyromancer. It's really just for the Tendrils kill, and there's nothing on Kyle's side of the table that he actually needs to get rid of. It looks like Kyle's completely abandoned the Null Rod plan, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing Null Rod. That was the card that I was most concerned about from the bug decks. That was my real issue, was losing games due to mana denial versus them, because their cards are less powerful overall.
Oh, wow, he drew another Gush.
He has a fistful of cards
Time
and
Walk.
a Time Walk, which is
okay.
so good with young Pyromancer.
Pretty much game over at this point.
They are besties. I mean, it's just... Any grow strategy, Time Walk is just so good. And that's what we've got
Crash in
here.
for 4. Kyle will take 2.
Yeah, if he wants, he can gain 2 later on with the Deathrite, but
Yeah.
at this point he's strictly defensive. And he's going to lose a blocker if necessary for the next attack here. Because he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Warren's going to have a
tokens.
tough time playing spells right now. So he's not going to be generating a whole lot of tokens. But
Yeah,
let's
that
see
mana
if he
base is a
found-
mess right now. If he had blue or green, he could potentially attempt to regrowth the Gush, forcing regrow the Time Walk, forcing the forcing the Deathrite Shaman to activate, because the Time Walk would be lethal. So we'll see what he can do. I mean, maybe with Lotus, just bouncing Deathrite here. So, is he going to gain the life? Yes. He's going to go ahead and gain the life.
Move up to 8. Five slow bros.
So he's getting in there for 4 this turn, potentially.
Yep. And then he just needs to play like 1 or 2 spells to really shore it up.
It's really cool to see the Pyromancer played. I haven't had a chance to play it in a tournament yet, and to be able to see the interaction of, you're really not getting in there very often with the Pyromancer itself.
Right.
So initially I was looking at the 2/1 body as kind of a huge improvement over the 1/1 Queer and Dryad, or at one point there was Forgotten Ancient being played as an 0/3. And really, they're just not getting in there, unless it's a completely empty board. So we've got the lethal from the tokens, and that's...
So Warren
she wrote.
Connell, champion, is piloting the first person I've seen to pilot the new Pyromancer list, and it definitely paid off. Seems like some very strong technology, a really good strategy, so I'll be looking forward to seeing how that plays out in future vintage events.
Yeah, I look forward to the evolution of this list and all the other Pyromancer deck lists out there. The Skull Clamp versions, the more aggressive builds with more creatures. I mean, there's a lot of different ways this can go. Warren was able to take it down with the 3 Pyromancers in his deck along with the Tendrils of Agony. So maybe Pyromancer doesn't need that much help in terms of other ground support.
Yeah, I never saw him actually want to cast Tendrils.
Yeah, it's really... that is a card that may not end up making the final cut as well, so looking forward to it. Well, let's thank some people here. There were so many people that made this a success.
Definitely. I mean, Dave Tassinari over at Scholars Bookstores in gaming in Bridgewater. Definitely huge shout out to him for hosting this tournament, allowing the End Step to come and do this coverage. Definitely a huge shout out to Wormwood Games. I really want to thank all the players who showed up. I mean, without them, this really wouldn't happen. Thanks to you, Eric, for showing up and helping us do commentary. I believe you were the judge at this tournament too.
Yeah, I was doing some serious plate spinning in between playing and judging and trading, but I had an awesome time, and it sounds like everybody else did too, so couldn't be happier with it. Always happy to do this. Anything I can do to grow the format. I mean, Vintage is the reason I play Magic. It's my favorite format by a mile. I enjoy Legacy a lot. I don't want to get down on it or anything, but Vintage, I mean, it's so much fun, and I think we saw a lot of that today with the first turn Black Lotuses and explosive plays, and I mean, there's just so many opportunities for games to just swing based off of one error. So just a lot of fun.
Definitely. Did I leave anybody out?
I hope we didn't, but thank you to everyone who made this such a huge success, and we look forward to seeing you again hopefully in a month or so. We've been trying to do these about once a month, and with the level of support we've been having, I look forward to continuing that, and we're looking at branching out into a Saturday event soon. So yeah, that's where it's at. It's growing and it's doing great, and just looking forward to more support.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, thank you.